Imagine building a product so good that every new customer costs you money. Not a little money, more money per single request than the customer pays you for an entire month. That's exactly what just happened to GitHub Copilot. On April 20th, GitHub froze all new signups for Copilot Pro, Pro Plus, and student plans. Not temporarily, not for maintenance. They hit the brakes because Agentic AI coding, the feature they spent 2 years hyping, is literally burning more compute than they can charge for. A GitHub VP admitted that a handful of requests now incur costs exceeding the plan price. One request, more expensive than your whole subscription. Here's how the most popular AI coding tool in the world broke its own business model. Let's start with the timeline, because GitHub tried to make this look routine. It wasn't. April 20th, 2026. GitHub quietly updated its pricing pages. If you tried to sign up for Copilot Pro at $10 a month, Pro Plus at $39, or the free student plan, you couldn't. The buttons were gone. The only plan still accepting new users? Copilot Free, the limited tier with basic code completions and no agentic features. Existing subscribers? You can keep your plan, for now. But GitHub also announced tighter session limits and weekly token caps. And here's the part that made developers furious. They removed Opus models from the Pro tier entirely. The most capable models, the ones people were actually using for complex multi-file refactors and agentic coding sessions, just vanished from the cheaper plan. GitHub also opened a refund window from April 20th to May 20th. Think about what that means. They're not just pausing growth, they're telling current customers, if you don't like the new limits, here's your money back. That's not a company tweaking pricing, that's a company in triage mode. The reason? Agentic AI coding sessions. To understand why this happened, you need to understand the difference between old Copilot and new Copilot. Old Copilot, the version that launched in 2022, was basically autocomplete on steroids. You type a function name, it suggests the next few lines. Each suggestion was a single, fast inference call. Cheap. Predictable. GitHub could charge $10 a month and still make money on most users because the average session used a handful of small, quick API calls. New Copilot, the agentic version they've been pushing since late 2025, is a completely different animal. Agentic coding means the AI doesn't just suggest code. It plans, executes, tests, debugs, reads documentation, modifies multiple files, runs terminal commands, and iterates on its own work. A single agentic coding session can involve dozens or even hundreds of inference calls, many of them using the largest, most expensive models available. Here's a concrete example. Say you ask Agentic Copilot to refactor your authentication system. It needs to read your current auth code across multiple files, understand your database schema, plan the refactor, write new code, check for breaking changes in your test suite, fix those tests, and verify everything compiles. That's not one API call. That's potentially 50 to 200 calls to a frontier model. At current API pricing, a single session like that can cost GitHub $5, $10, even $20 in raw compute, and you're paying them $10 a month. The math was always going to break. The question was when. Here's what makes this story bigger than just GitHub. This isn't a GitHub problem. This is an industry problem. Every AI coding tool is heading toward the same cliff. Cursor, the AI code editor that SpaceX just agreed to buy for $60 billion, has the same fundamental issue. Their most powerful features use the same expensive frontier models. Anthropic just tested removing Claude code from their $20 Pro plan this same week, citing unsustainable usage patterns. They reversed it after backlash, but the message was clear. The entire AI coding industry was built on a bet that model costs would drop fast enough to make flat-rate subscriptions profitable. That bet is losing. Here's why. Model costs are dropping for basic inference. A simple code completion is cheaper today than it was a year ago, but agentic features don't just use more calls, they use the biggest models for each call. The cost curve for agentic AI isn't going down, it's going up. Every time a new, more capable model drops, like GPT 5.5 this week or DeepSeek V4, developers immediately want to use it for agentic tasks. More capable means more expensive per token, and agentic means more tokens per session. You're on a treadmill where your product gets better and more expensive at the same time, but your customers expect to pay the same $10 to $39 they signed up for. GitHub had 3 choices: lose money on every power user, cap usage so aggressively that the product feels broken, or stop adding new customers until they figure it out. They chose option 3. But there's more to this story that nobody's talking about. Remember, GitHub is owned by Microsoft, and Microsoft is the single largest investor in OpenAI. They're simultaneously selling AI compute at a premium through Azure and losing money subsidizing it through GitHub. The real story here isn't that GitHub messed up their pricing, it's that the entire flat-rate subscription model for AI coding tools may be fundamentally broken. Unlike streaming video where every user costs roughly the same, AI usage is wildly variable. One power user running agentic sessions all day can cost more than 1,000 casual users combined, and developers are furious. Social media is full of accusations of bait and switch. Hook developers on powerful features, then yank them away once they're dependent. The developers who migrated their entire workflow to GitHub's ecosystem are now stuck. This might be the moment that pushes developers toward open source AI coding alternatives, but even those face the same fundamental compute cost problem. Someone has to pay for the GPUs. The one segment that might survive? Enterprise. Companies with deep pockets who see AI coding as a competitive advantage will pay whatever it costs. But individual developers, freelancers, students, indie devs, are about to get squeezed out of the best AI tools. We're heading toward a two-tier future: enterprise-grade AI for those who can afford it, and basic autocomplete for everyone else. So what happens now? First, expect usage-based pricing. The flat monthly subscription for AI coding is probably dead. GitHub will almost certainly introduce metered billing, either per agentic session, per token, or per some unit of AI compute. Microsoft already does this with Azure OpenAI. The infrastructure exists. Second, expect tiering to get aggressive. Free users get autocomplete. $10 gets you basic suggestions with a small model. $39 gets you limited agentic sessions. Unlimited agentic coding with frontier models? That's going to be $100 plus per month, if not more. Cursor Pro is already $200 a month and losing money. Third, and this is the part that should concern every developer, expect lock-in tactics. When your pricing model shifts from attract users to monetize users, the product incentives change. GitHub controls your repositories, your CI/CD, your code review, your project management. They're going to make it very hard to use a competing AI coding tool inside GitHub's ecosystem. The free lunch is over. AI coding in 2024 and 2025 was subsidized by venture capital and big tech companies racing for market share. In 2026, someone has to pay the actual compute bill, and that someone is going to be you. This is one of those moments where the business reality catches up to the hype. Agentic AI coding is genuinely transformative. It's probably the single productivity unlock developers in a decade, but the economics don't work at $10 a month. They never did. GitHub freezing signups is the canary in the coal mine. The question isn't whether AI tools will get more expensive, it's how much more and how fast. If you found this breakdown useful, hit subscribe. I cover stories like this every single day. And drop a comment. Would you pay $1 a month for unlimited agentic coding? I genuinely want to know. See you in the next one.